Why has European integration been so slow?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that in times of crisis, when there was necessity, they eventually moved very fast. The euro area was clearly incomplete and needed to be strengthened. They put up a firewall. They reinforced the banking system. And I think they came to closer accountability, but it is still short of what is needed. They need more trust. They need more accountability. And I think more to the point, they need to really strengthen three things. One is the capital market. Two is the banking union. And three is a central capacity that will actually signal to the rest of the world that they are shoulder to shoulder together and they will face the next crisis with that rainy fund that we are advocating.
Okay, on those 3 points, and especially on the banking union and the capital markets union, it's been in the progress. I mean, it's in the making, but will we get a real capital markets union and banking union in our lifetime?
In your lifetime, yes. In mine, probably so. In Tom's, certainly. So, I think those are the two most likely to happen. Capital Market Union, I think they're getting very close. I really do not think that they should set their aim at closing and completing the job only when the bankruptcy law has been harmonized between the member states, because that will take a long time. So my suspicion is that they should set a few targets that would operate as a common basis, a common platform. Many elements are there already: common prospectus, standardized documents, access by SMEs to the entire markets, but they need to go a little bit further. And I think it's particularly the case given what's happening on the other side of the channel. The fact that Brexit is going to happen, whatever the transition period, whatever the terms afterwards, some of the financing activity is going to move to the continent. And I think it's important that the euro area be a joint, properly operated capital market union. Banking union might take a bit more time, but I think that there is one component where I believe the members are almost there, and that is this common fiscal backstop in case of bank resolution, which would be very welcome, because if a bank falls, then the backstop has to be able to operate if needed. Where it's going to be a bit more gradual, but I hope it will happen, is on this issue of the common deposit insurance mechanism, wherein if a bank falls, then the depositors are protected, and they're protected by a mutual fund that is actually financed and operated by the banks in order to protect depositors. The central fiscal capacity will be more difficult.
Why will it be that much more difficult? And actually, is there a lack of commonality amongst European member states? Because Macron has to focus on reforms at home. Angela Merkel just formed a government after months of negotiations, and they're all dealing with Brexit.
Yeah, but I mean, the political situation is clearly a big component. I would say that Germany is now out of this coalition time and hopefully able now to operate and to move forward as Germany is capable of doing when the contract has been set, which clearly has been the case. I think President Macron is clearly indicating that he's going to act on all fronts, and while he has a domestic agenda, he's also been very active on the international scene, as we have observed. So if these two countries can set their mind to reforming the euro area, if they can carry with them some of the other players, including the Netherlands, including Italy, whenever that government is formed, then there would be real hope to move forward.
How close, I mean, how soon can they move forward? Is this something, I know you've been saying by the autumn, but actually if nothing's been done by the autumn, does it mean that it takes a backstep?
The reason there is urgency is twofold. One is there will be a next crisis, because that's the way it works. And as I said, it's better to act when the sun is shining and when you can fix the roof without too much problem. That's the first necessity. The second necessity is that next year you move into European elections, and that is going to preoccupy everybody. They're going to focus their mind on who is elected to do what and blah, 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 and not on the deliverables, not on the steps, not on the sequences. So I think there is a window of opportunity from now until June, when they've agreed to actually deliver some proposals. And I would say until the end of the year is really the window of opportunity when they can give signals, set objectives, agree on the principles, and then leave it to the operators, to the technical teams, to those whose job it is to actually build and construct what they have agreed.
How much are these trade tensions actually a distraction? And if you think about the IMF, the reason for existing was back in the 1930s to be against a trade war. Are we back to square one?
The reason we were set up was to provide financial stability, and trade, as well as prosperity as a result of general growth, were mentioned as some of the key elements. And we have seen in the last decades that trade was a major engine for innovation, for productivity, for lower costs, particularly for low-income families pretty much around the world. So that is the reason we believe that trade openings and trade benefits for all are critically important and dealt with in the forum that was set up by the member states around the world, which is the WTO. So while there can be bilateral talks, plurilateral understandings, and we have seen a resurgence of those between various members, including the latest, amongst the African countries, the WTO and this multilateral forum is actually adequate in order to address disputes, in order to address concerns about fairness, about reciprocity, about freedom of trade between the members. And if there are such issues, and I'm sure there are some, they need to be addressed in that forum.
Do you worry that it will actually have an impact on your economic forecasts, which you'll be releasing in a couple of weeks, actually?
Where the impact would be most critical is as far as the confidence is concerned, as far as confidence is undermined by a repeated pattern of challenging the rules and the principles under which business has been operating. And we're seeing it. The business leaders are saying, no, we want clarity. We want to understand where we are. We need to organize our supply chain. We need to source our products. If we are in a limbo as to what the tariffs are, what the next move will be, it's a problem. It's not so much the sort of impact on the 0.03% of GDP in a particular country, because that's what we're talking about when it comes to steel or to aluminium for particular regions. But it's the mere principle of, never mind, I'll deal with that. No. Businesses, investors, consumers, they all want to know exactly what the rules of the trade are going to be.
Is there a region in the world that would suffer the most out of this uncertainty? So out of this, basically, chief executives not knowing exactly where how their supply chain would be hit?
It varies enormously between countries. I would say all the large corporates that are organized everywhere, that are supplying everywhere and that are sourcing everywhere would be impacted. But if you look at Germany, where we are at the moment, in this beautiful setting, many of the small and medium-sized companies in Germany are organized with a supply chain, with trade with other countries and assembling and identification and creation of value in many places. So I think business in general would be affected.
You speak about Germany, and you wrote in a blog back in January that actually the Germany should rebalance their books a little bit, less of a surplus. We're speaking to Peter Navarro a little bit later on, who's actually saying the same thing in different words, but the kind of the main message. How can you convince Germany to change their economy a little bit?
I think Germany is gradually moving in that direction. We're finding it a little bit too gradual to our recommendations, and we have repeatedly said that a rebalancing is in order, and that in particular the current account deficit is not justified at that level. A certain current account deficit is legitimate given the aging of the German society, but not at the level of 7+%. And I'm pleased to see that there is now more understanding that it would be good and beneficial for Germany to actually invest more. Germany has always saved a lot. It's a big saver. And there are very high savings, much, much higher than investment. So now it's time to rebalance by investing more And there are many areas where investment can be made, whether it's digitalization, whether it's childcare support and centres, whether it's some infrastructure maintenance and sometimes developments. I think there's a lot that can be done.
Madame Lagarde, one final question before we get back to Europe on the possible more expelling of Russian diplomats by the US and the EU. Does that in any way, shape or form actually hurt the financial stability of the economic system?
The IMF doesn't opine on those matters, and we have not measured the impact. It's clear that when there is good confidence, good and solid relationships, a constant dialogue, it's always propitious for trade. And I would add that when there is trade, there are good manners between people. So I would only say that, as Montesquieu in his old days would have said, more trade actually can help, but I don't want to comment on the Russian-specific case.
And so, final question on this European integration, which is basically your big speech here. Do you think we will get movement? I know a lot of leaders are watching us at the moment. Do you think there will be movement on further integration in the next couple of months?
I don't think that there will be movement because of my speech, because this is a contribution by the IMF to an existing conversation, which we hope will take the euro area further and deeper. And I was really encouraged to see that France and Germany, through Chancellor Merkel and President Macron, have committed to deliver proposals that those two would agree upon by the June Council meeting. They were expecting to deliver for this Council meeting in March. Because of the coalition talks, it was made more difficult, and Chancellor Merkel could not really focus on that. I'm encouraged to see that they want to deliver by June. So the teams are going to have to do some work now.